It is a Monday edition of Flyers Daily presented by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. And of course, you have the Penn Medicine Assist, which we'll get back to hopefully on Tuesday, where there'll be some assists on goals. They don't give out the assist for shootout goals, but this season, Flyers teaming up with Penn Medicine with the Penn Medicine Assist, which means for every Flyers assist, Penn Medicine and the Flyers are donating 30 pounds of food to local communities in need. It is a Monday. That means it's a Monday with Meltzer from PhiladelphiaFlyers.com, NHL.com, and HockeyBuzz.com. It is Bill Meltzer. Bill, it's been quite the week of Flyers hockey.
Very, very, very busy week this week. Gamut of emotions this past week. I think the biggest thing ultimately is, as we're recording this, is that pretty much every team they've played twice. If they've lost the first one, they've come back and won the next time around. I think that level of resiliency has been one of the positives so far.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, Bill. I put this tweet out that the Flyers have been great in revenge. They go to Vegas, they lose that heartbreak game. When they get Vegas at home, they beat them. They have a 714 points percentage. The Kings beat them in Philadelphia. They went to LA and beat them with a 763 points percentage. Canes, they lost in Philadelphia, won in Carolina. We'll see them Tuesday, 579 points percentage. Sabres, 476 points percentage. Ducks with a 450. And, of course, the Islander game on Saturday night with a 550 points percentage. Let's focus in on that Islander game, Bill, because, they wanted to make the nets bigger. They wanted to shrink the goalies' equipment. They wanted more goals. But, boy, that was about as exciting of a hockey game as I've seen in a long time because there was so much tension in the game and no margin for error.
Yeah. Won't too many goaltenders do. It was better than that one.
Yeah, that was beauty.
The Flyers made some adjustments on the kind of on the fly between Friday and Saturday. They and understandably so. John Tortorella and his staff, they were alarmed by the quality of chances they were giving up. Particularly in the Rangers game, even the first game against the Islanders. It was a game where the Flyers came back from 2-0 and 3-1, and they actually controlled, I think, the majority of the play. But A, they're playing against rather playing against Sorokin, and B, they were giving up some pretty darn good chances in that one too, where they didn't really give Carter Hart much of a chance on their second or third goals. So they were trying to. The backdoor goal in particular, I think, was kind of worrisome. Some of the things that were happening last year in some of these games were kind of creeping back in, and they adjusted it. The Flyers really tightened things up defensively. They had a much better puck support, much harder to beat through the neutral zone, harder to generate rushes against, and even playing a bit more of a defensive kind of what you call defensive style of play. Flyers had plenty of puck possession in this game too. The Flyers really, other than maybe the first few minutes of the first period, controlled most of that game. So that was pretty impressive to see.
To kind of bounce back and do what they've done for the majority of the season with that quick play and transition, despite the fact that aggressiveness, because they weren't recognizing, Bill, that they weren't just wingers weren't seeing it or the forwards weren't seeing it to cover for a defenseman that was being aggressive at the line to defend it, whether that was in the offensive zone or the neutral zone. And that's what caused, their own aggressiveness used against them to cause those odd man rushes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that third Rangers goal on Friday was extremely alarming. It starts out with a defensive zone faceoff for the Rangers. Paling had a scoring chance So the next faceoff is deep in the Rangers' end. Rangers win the faceoff. Puck goes behind their net. You see that all the time, but you don't often see a team go from behind their net all the way 200 feet, almost 200 feet, and score. There were so many breakdowns in that play. You had they beat your forecheck too easily. You had insufficient support up high. The guy up high in that situation was Owen Tippett. You had, as you just referred, just referenced Travis Sanheim. He was aggressive at the blue line, which is something they've been wanting to do. They've been wanting to challenge the exit there, and a lot of times it's worked. There was too easy of an exit. All of a sudden, you're on the wrong side of the puck. You didn't get any back checking from your forward because Tippett didn't get back, and your defenseman getting back, Sanheim, didn't get to the near side post, which is his one job coming back. So structurally, everything collapsed on the one play, and it's too easy of a goal you allow. And that was a killer goal in that game. Now, that was now all of a sudden it's 3-0. Flyers did get one back. They got no further than that. But these kind of breakdowns, if we're starting to happen too much, those are the kind of things that can be teaching tools too. I mentioned this. I mentioned this the other day on Twitter. That whole sequence, that whole series of breakdowns. It used to be Gary Dornhofer would always telestrate those in the intermissions.
He would, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that was a perfect, stop it right there. All right, let her go. There were so many breakdowns from one end of the ice to the other that so many opportunities to not have that happen. And I mean, it's going to be the Flyers obviously can't afford to get scored on that way. You got to give your goalies more of a chance than that. So it's something that they recognized and they've adapted to. I would expect also against Carolina on Tuesday, where you have probably the number one puck possession team in the NHL. It's going to be crucial as to how the Flyers play when they don't have the puck. They played two really tight games with Carolina. They won one, they lost one, but as you move further here, when you have games like these, it's crucial how you play without the puck, and so some of those adjustments you saw on Saturday need to continue as a pretty tough schedule moves forward here.
Yeah, the funny thing is too is that exit from the zone for the Rangers was SOP. That was standard operating procedure. It was a simple to the winger, center curl, and off they went. It wasn't like it was some insane stretch pass that beat the coverage, and that makes it, albeit a little bit more alarming as well. It was a pretty standard operating procedure for breakouts when it comes to exiting the zone. Bill, the big storyline Saturday, was the goaltending of both guys. Sorokin was fantastic in the game, busier than Ersson. He had 40 shots that he saw in the game, and Ersson saw 24, but there was a lot of quality in there as well. But Sam Ersson, in his first couple of games this year, we were wondering, is he going to be able to adapt to being a backup? That's a hard thing to do when you're used to playing multiple games a week, staying sharp, staying ready, both physically, mentally, and with your game dialed in is one of those things that I've always said is easier said than done. But in the last 5 games, since he started the year, in his last 5 games, he's now a 4-1 record, a 1.6 goals against average, and a .937 save percentage, and includes that shutout against the New York Islanders. He looks like he is just reading the game extremely well. And maybe, some of those hiccups in the beginning of the season taught him some lessons on how to be prepared and give your team quality starts as a backup.
Yeah, and I think there's always that game of adjust and counter adjust.
Yep.
He kind of snuck up on the NHL a little bit last year. The beginning had the run of wins. I don't think anybody had a book on him. Then you go around the league. There's video on you. They adapt. Go back to the game against Dallas. His first start of this year, where they were picking him apart over his glove. And
19 days between when he played in the preseason and that game too.
Yeah, and so there was a long layoff in there too, yep. And that certainly was a factor too. So I think that between Sam and Kim Dillabaugh and the just getting his reps in and watching video and starting to get adapted to his schedule when he's likely to start too.
Yeah.
They're having so far the goaltending rotation has worked out where you could pretty much go in predicting who was going to start just based upon, like this past Saturday, you knew it was the third game in 4 nights. You knew it was the back half of of a back-to-back. So you could look at a week ahead and okay, that's probably going to be one of Ersson's games. So that I think that's helped too. There's been some predictability. There isn't always that. The Flyers did have, but it almost was a blessing in disguise when Carhart was missed that little bit of time with an injury and with the illness, because it got Sam into a few more games that he probably wouldn't have started. Might have gotten one of those. The games that Cal Peterson got, I think they would have been Sam's games instead and reversed. So I think that ultimately helped him. And now that he's fallen into a little bit of a rhythm, we're seeing a very confident goalie, and we're seeing that he's adjusted, and and it's not just numbers wise too. Like I thought you and I were talking after the Columbus game that he didn't see a lot of shots in that game, but man, he was sharp.
Yeah,
and this just was the next step from that.
Yeah, I thought he was incredibly patient in the game against the Islanders. And out of all the saves he made some really dynamic saves moving laterally. But I think the one save in overtime where he didn't leave his post is the one that I'm impressed with the most, because it would have been so easy to lean because there was a guy working towards the back door and he didn't lean. It just ended up being a nothing burger shot into him, but he never leaned off that post. Bill, one of the things I was concerned with Rasmus Ristolainen coming back is the coaching staff going to have to go through the process they went through last year, where it was, for lack of a better term, maybe corralling Risto to play within some parameters, not overrun plays to make the big hit, not take himself out of position, break down the structure. And I was wondering if we were going to have to go through all that again, especially combined with the layoff to start the year. But he came back in, and I thought he played with a lot of parameters, and I thought we saw very similar to Risto the final 2/3 of last year. What'd you think of his first game?
I was very pleasantly surprised with Risto's first game. I was expecting considerable rust.
Mm-hmm.
He only got into one full contact practice. He'd been skating on his own. He'd been skating in the yellow jersey, but he had only one practice with the whole team. And because of the way the Thanksgiving schedule worked, you're in Elmont on Wednesday, Thursday's Thanksgiving Day that you don't practice, then you have the back-to-back Friday, Saturday. So I thought, okay, well maybe they'll hold him into this week, get him into Monday's practice, and then you might see him. And he didn't skip a beat. He played with a lot of structure. I was actually, and a lot of times you'll see rust with the puck. A couple of really bad turnovers, and it's it's kind of typical as somebody's coming back in. I think we saw a little bit of that with Mark Stahl when he first came back in after missing a month. He had a turnover early in the game, and that one ended up in the net. That was the first game against the Islanders. So I mean, you kind of expect it, and you just deal with it, and then you hope each game gets a little better than that. And it was actually better than I thought it was. I'm like better than I hoped for going into that game. So that was really encouraging to see that right back off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times when guys come back after that or first game of the year and it's pronounced into the season, they as they say, they chop the puck up out there. They just can't get a handle on it. Bill, one of the things we saw in the Islander game for the first time in a long time was Noah Cates on the wing. I thought that line was, really effective with him on the wing as well. We know that when he came into the league in 21-22 after his Minnesota Duluth season ended, he played in 16 games, played the wing, had 9 points, 5 goals, and 4 assists. This year, in 20 games that he's played at center, he's got 1 goal and 3 assists for 4 points, and that one game at wing where I thought he was really effective. And I think the notion is that if you're a really good 200-foot player, you need to be a center. But there are good defensive wingers in this NHL. Would you like to see him on the wing going forward? I think it's part of it's the byproduct of center depth at the position. What's better for the collective team? Yeah. Or do you want to get this player going offensively, and putting him on the wing could do exactly that?
Yeah, I think the depth piece of it is certainly a big part of it. You have. I think there's somewhat the way that they've been using centers. I think there's a little too much redundancy of the position. And obviously, there's no such things as it's bad to have a two-way center. I'm not saying that, but there wasn't enough offensive jam and creativity, and you can always get better on the forecheck too. One of Cates' best assets, and for all the good things he did as a center last year, one thing you lose a little bit is he's a very good F1, very good first guy in on the forecheck.
Totally agree. Seth talked about this on yesterday's episode.
Yeah. So he gets in there and he creates a lot of turnovers, creates a lot of pressure.
Good stick.
Very very quick stick, and he can get to the net too. As a center, you have to always be defensively conscious. So you got to be ready to leave the offensive zone to come back and help your D. And you're usually the last guy to leave the defensive zone as you're breaking out. So and he does all those things well. I mean, it's vital that you have guys that do that. I mean, nobody does it better than Sean Couturier. So you have that right off the top of your lineup. Ryan Paling's a good two-way center too. Mm-hmm. So he has that. He has an element of speed. You have Scott Lawton, who can play center or wing. You have Cates, who can play center or wing. And so that gives you some flexibility. I like him on the wing. I'd like to see him. He was playing third line wing, and it worked out well. I thought there was some chemistry kind of right off the bat there with Joel Farabee, who he's played with a little bit. Of course, Paling was there as well on that line. But when he was at wing a couple of years ago, he was pretty not exclusively, but mostly with Owen Tippett on one side and Frost in the middle, and that trio seemed to really click in terms of the combination of skills they have. That opens the possibility of trying something like that out again.
Yeah.
And the other thing with Cates is he can play either side. He played the right side on Saturday, and previously he was playing left wing when he came up the first time around from college. So it opens up a lot of things you can do having one wing. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see that continue. You can always move him back in the middle when you need it, but I think this way you have more variety of things you can do, and I think it seemed to bring out more in his game. It seemed to just relax a little bit more on the wing too. I think he was putting a ton of pressure on himself, and I actually think that this helped. At least the first game it did.
Yeah, I mean, you can have a defensively responsible winger, but you're right. The center is often playing down, certainly below the top of the circle, sometimes below the hash marks and below the goal line. And he's usually going to be F3 getting up the ice because the wingers are going to go first. Last forward to leave the zone is the center. So he's usually F3. And I would love to get Cates in on the forecheck. I think he angles guys well.
Very well.
He can use his stick and board battles really well, and that can create possession in the offensive zone. Bill, it seems like, when it comes to lineup changes, at least up front, it's Frost in, Brink out, Brink in, Frost out. And it's odd because one's a center, one's a winger. Maybe some of it, I know you alluded to this, is predicated on size and team size, and they are on the smaller side. The average weight of the Flyers is roughly 194. You look at that team in the Islanders, it's 204. Can it be as simple as team size? And, maybe with Cates on the wing, this does open a door to get a crafty center in like Morgan Frost with consistency.
Yeah. I that's the one downside to the way the Flyers line up on Saturday. I was not happy with about the part with Bobby Brink coming out of the lineup.
Yeah.
It's not going to kill you to have two small playmaking forwards in the same lineup. It was pointed out to me, and I was thinking in terms of Brink Frost, because I think you almost have to in the 11 games where Frost has played this season. Brink has only played, I think it was in 6 of them, but in 2 of them was also where Sean Couturier was out. He missed a couple games.
Yeah.
So in order to have a full complement of forwards, you had to have both in the lineup. So, but there's also, you take those 2 games with Couturier out, there's only been 4 times that both guys have been in the lineup on the same night. It's been one or it's been the other. Honestly, I think you can think a little more broadly than that. I think you need that creativity, and you need that distribution and creativity in terms of creating plays off the walls, creating plays in tight spaces.
Power play.
and then I was going to say, and then most certainly the power play. You saw a little bit on, the Flyers only had one power play on Saturday. And as bad as it was on Friday, I guess it was almost a break. They had the one. They can reset that a little bit. It was just listen. I mean, the Flyers are a quarter of the way into the season, and if it continues at this pace, it'll be the worst power play season in franchise history. So that's something that needs major improvement. But at any rate, on Saturday they only had one, but they looked pretty good. And Frost on the left half wall was a big part of that. He was distributing really well, especially maybe a couple of really nice cross ice puck rotations where Tyson Forster got open. They didn't score on them, but they were threatening on those plays. I think that they need that element. You need it on both units. I don't know I don't know you have Brink and Frost in the same unit, but having guys on either unit that can do that, I think is one of the things that they've been missing for the most part. But I think all that is necessary. It was pointed out to me because again I was thinking it in terms of does it have to be Frost or Brink? Why can't it be both? It was pointed out to me. Well, there's also the element of both Brink and Cam Atkinson are wingers. They're both very small wingers, and so maybe there's a piece of that too. Okay, you have Brink and Frost and Atkinson, then you have a very small portion of the lineup between the three of them. So that probably enters in the figuring too. But I mean, honestly, I think you got to just as much skill as you can in your lineup.
Yeah, I think when I think of the power play too, in watching it now through this first part of the season, it's become apparent to me that you have to run it off the half wall. To me, I feel like there's no preference to run it high or off the half wall. Yeah. And, they had Sean Walker on the power play in the game on Friday.
Yeah.
And to me, he's just not a power play player. He's had a really good season. There was a play in particular that he made where he gathered a puck in the neutral zone and dumped it back in before his team had exited the zone. Yeah. And that's just one of those things that you can't do on the power play. You have to maintain possession, regroup, and reattack. But where are we on, Cam York is the guy that played a lot of power play at all levels. He's had some power play time, obviously, this year. None of it's been successful, no matter who it's been. But to me, you got to work through it with Cam York.
I could not agree more. The Flyers had 12 full minutes of power play time, 0 for 6. Sometimes the number of power plays you have in a game can be deceptive. There's
partials,
chopped up partials. Yeah. You might have 6 power plays, but 3 of them are broken up with 4-on-4 time or whatever. So this is 12 full minutes, and in those 12 minutes of power play time, Cam York was the ice for 14 seconds. And I'm not saying I think the Flyers power play issues go way beyond. Well, why isn't this guy out here? And why aren't you working more plays from below the goal line, from behind the net, through varying the looks, right? Double screens, whatever kind of structural tweaks or this. Why is this guy there? Why is this guy not there? It's not really about that in terms of the success. They have so many things they need to fix. But I think in a year that one of the express goals is development, finding what you have in players, taking your young players that you view as part of your future and developing them further, getting them out in situations. Sean Walker is not the future in your power play. Certainly Nick Steeler doubling up Cam York in power play time in a game is not what I think the Flyers should be doing. I mean, it was, and it's not whether on a given night Nick Steeler got out there for 30 seconds, but I'm saying that as an overriding goal for the season, I want to see Cam York out there on a game in and game out basis. 14 seconds out of 12 minutes, especially when you're struggling. I think that's not that's not the steps you need to be seeing this year. And it's not even about results. It's about development.
Yeah. Bill, the other thing, I mean, they run a 1-3-1 power play. And unless you have a very commanding point man that can get shots through, or you have a really good high level playmaker on the half wall i.e. like Drew and his,
Yeah.
in his time here in Philadelphia. I don't know. Maybe you got to move to an overload or something different, because it's obviously just not getting results. This week, Bill, they're in the run of this divisional matchups. It was going to be 8 straight games, and we got a couple more this week, or 3 more this week, technically speaking. 2 to round out the month of November. Carolina on Tuesday at Wells Fargo. Then Thursday, we're going to get our first look at the New Jersey Devils, who've been really up and down this year, kind of like a toilet seat. And then we'll start off the month of December with a home with the Pittsburgh Penguins. But these games are really important to maintain positioning, because while they've won a lot of games, they've seen a lot of the West so far, and they've gathered a lot of points off the West to where they are. But ultimately, it's going to come down to what you do in your division in the Metro, and they're right in the teeth of that right now.
Yeah, you look at the standings right now. The Rangers are running away with it a little bit right now for the top spot. Then you look at the next batch of spots, and everybody is close until you get to the bottom with Columbus. So first spot is not close. The race to the bottom to the next rung up from there right now is not too close. But everywhere in between is really a dogfight, and I think it could be that way all year. I think it'll be that way all year, as a matter of fact. So those divisional games, those so-called 4-point swing games, are critical. And your record in your division will go a long way towards determining, are you fighting for a wild card spot, or are you on the bubble trying to get up to the lower wild card spot, or are you looking by New Year's at okay, what's our plan here now as we get closer towards the trade deadline and the stretch drive. This next 4 to 6 weeks are really going to determine, even if the Flyers aren't buyers at the deadline, are they going to be sellers, right? And so these divisional games are going to go a long way towards determining how competitive you are in this race, because I don't think if the Flyers are even on the bubble, even if they're on the cusp of contending for one of the wild card spots, even the lower one, I don't think you're going to see wholesale changes. Whereas if the Flyers lose a bunch of these divisional games and they fall kind of back where they were last season in the standings, I think that's going to be the case. And it may be that case, maybe not just even at the deadline. It may be from, maybe about 4 weeks before, because what ends up happening sometimes is you get too close to the deadline. Flyers found that out the hard way last year. As moves get made, you don't want to be the one who ends up not moving the guys you're looking to move.
Yeah, you don't want to be the last one standing without a chair. In that situation, we did see that last year. I mean, some of the more shocking storylines this year, obviously Edmonton is an enormous one, but the New Jersey Devils, despite the season that Jack Hughes is having, 9-1 through 19 games, sitting in the 7th spot of the division. They're only 3 points up on the Columbus Blue Jackets, who've been putrid. Now, they've played 3 less games than the Blue Jackets, but still. It's been a really disappointing season thus far for the Devils. We'll see if they can get it together, but the Rangers right now with the highest points percentage in the league, and they look every bit legit, for sure. All right, Bill, one last thing before we get out of here. We've got the alumni game coming up and the Crazy 8 sale. Tell everybody about this.
Yeah, really, really cool thing. Of course, the alumni game and the reunion of the Stanley Cup teams are going to be January 26th and 27th. The 26th is the alumni game. The 27th, before the current Flyers play the current Bruins. Mark Recchi is being inducted into the Flyers Hall of Fame. So on the 26th, they're having what the Flyers are calling the Crazy 8 sale, because the Crazy 8s line of Recchi and Eric Lindros and Brent Fedek will be reunited in that alumni game. So start on Black Friday, it ends today on Cyber Monday. For the alumni game, all upper level seats are only $8 a piece.
Ooh.
And all lower level seats are a pack of 4 of them for $88. So you're not going to find a better deal than that out there anywhere. And the group of players that's lined up for the alumni game is amazing. Obviously, the Crazy 8s line will be back together. So 2/3 of the Legion of Doom, because Lindros will skate some shifts with John LeClaire. So Johnny will be there. Patrick Sharp will be there. It'll be Mike Richards return to a Flyers uniform for the first
another
time.
18, another 8.
Yeah, there you go, right? Yeah, another crazy eights kind of thing going on with that one. Didn't even think about that. Mike Knubel's going to be there. Kimmo Timonen, Mark Howe. It'll be the final time that Joe Watson plays. Joe,
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
I've just been teasing about it nonstop because he's the only person who's worn a Flyers uniform in 7 different decades, and Joe always says this is the last time.
Yep.
And then the next time one rolls around, there's Joe out there again. But
Yep.
Joe says this will be the last time. Joe celebrated his 80th birthday this year, and Joe said, this is going to be it. So, and which is pretty neat to have somebody who was from those Broad Street Bullies Cup teams, actually still playing. So on the ice and playing. I think the only one any alumni team who's still playing who was playing way back in the 60s. So that's a pretty cool touch. Again, you have the reunion of the Stanley Cup teams. All the living members of the Flyers 2 Stanley Cup teams will be there. So it'll be a great night on the Bruins side. Ray Bourque will be captaining them. One of the best of the best. Al Iafrate will be on their side too. So one thing the legs leave you, but one thing that never goes away is the hands. Those guys, the guys who could shoot, could still shoot.
Yeah, and Bourque was, remember the sharpshooting in the All-Star game where
4 for
4? Yeah,
4 for 4 every year. Yeah,
and then Iafrate had one of the biggest bombs ever. I mean, that guy with a wooden Northland could just bomb it over 100.
Absolutely bomb it. Yeah. And
who said he's not going to play if he's using one of the sticks of today? He'll bomb it like 130.
Oh, yeah, with all the whip on the stick, and you get an extra 15 miles an hour on it. Yeah. So it's a great group of players. Now the VIP reception on the 26th is not included. That's an add-on to the tickets, but that's something too that I think that's really a once in a lifetime thing, because there'll be, I believe, about 55 Flyers alumni, all the Cup team guys, all the guys who are playing in the alumni game, other Flyers Hall of Famers like Brian Propp will be there at that. So it's a great place to take photos, get autographs, and basically hang out for an hour with a who's who of Flyers hockey. So it'll be a great night. And I said you're not going to beat $8 a ticket or 88 for 4 in the lower level. So that runs only through Monday.
That is Cyber Monday today. So everybody get those tickets. Go to PhiladelphiaFlyers.com. Make sure you read Bill's stuff also at PhiladelphiaFlyers.com, NHL.com, and HockeyBuzz.com. And we will preview Flyers Canes on tomorrow's episode. So join us then for a brand new Flyers Daily.